So thank you for joining us. We are here with Lisa Walder from 15 West, who we've spoken to before. I think we've done some podcasts. We had in lives.
Yeah.
But we just thought it'd be great to sit down, hear the full story of 15 West, what you're seeing in the market. Obviously, being a rec to rec, you guys are fully embedded in the recruitment world. Staffing on it. So it'd be great to just kind of kick off a little bit about Lisa, 15 West, where you're kind of currently set up and operating and what you guys specialise in.
Amazing, thank you. Well, thanks for having me on. So yes, 15 West was actually set up 4 years ago this week. So
happy anniversary.
Yes, thank you very much. Can't believe where the time's gone. And what we wanted to do, Sarah Murphy and I, my business partner, we wanted to set up a rec-to-rec business that was really focused on delivering to the client. And rec-to-rec's got a real reputation of being very candidate-led and spray and pray, and we didn't want to do that. So set up 4 years ago with some sort of 4 or 5 key clients that put us on a retainer.
Nice.
Set up, and we started in London, launched our business in New York in March 2020, which was an interesting time to launch a recruitment business. We actually hired our first employee in New York in September 2020.
Okay.
Sarah went over to launch the business, and from there we grew London and New York. So that's the 2 locations that we're in now. We're currently 12 people across the two businesses. And we focus on helping UK headquartered businesses scale in the US. So we've got 90% of our client base are UK headquartered recruitment businesses.
Yes, amazing. And did you know from kind of day of inception you were always going to go out to the US?
Yeah.
That always?
Yeah, 100%. So I had built out the US business for our previous company. Sarah was going to move out there actually with the previous company we worked together.
Yeah.
So when we both left and set up 15 West, we decided that the first thing we would do was be in the US. So I'd been recruiting in the US for 5 years prior to that.
Yeah.
It's basically following our clients. They wanted to move over there and we kind of helped them there. So the first thing we did was try and get our visa. So we got the E2 visa. We actually got approved for that in December 2019. Pretty much that was our sole focus. Just want to get the visa and get out there, because there wasn't at that point there were no other rec-to-recs on the ground that did what we did. So we wanted to be the first to do that.
And it definitely is like a different approach. As you say, a lot of rec-to-recs will go candidate first. Let's do an email out. So to work partnership led with your client.
Exactly. Yeah. And we've been working with the same clients in the US probably for like 10 years now. Obviously we've got new clients since, but we didn't want to be all things to all people. And we really saw a niche for a quality led rec-to-rec that could help and advise UK businesses, not just in New York, but opening offices in Boston, Miami, Chicago, wherever it might be. So we want to really become the experts in the US market.
Love it. And New York, obviously, the US is ginormous, and literally is like 50 different countries. When looking where to go, we always say to clients, you want to be really focused, you want to be niche, definitely as you start out and build your presence. How did you go about kind of that exercise of mapping out where you wanted to be, where you wanted to get an office and a presence?
Yeah, to be honest with you, we just went with where our clients were at the time. In hindsight, would we do that again? Maybe not. Obviously, we didn't know the world was going to change quite that much. A lot of our clients are now not in New York, but we wanted to, New York is the kind of recruitment center in the US.
Yes.
Most of our clients were there. We wanted to be relationship driven. If we were going to be on the ground, we wanted to be able to go and visit our clients. And, if they were hiring candidates, we wanted to be able to meet our candidates. And that was really the reason we did it, to be honest with you, initially. And it worked really well. And, but as I say, now our clients are spread out. We could really be anywhere.
Yeah.
But from our point of view, the majority of our clients were in New York. So we went there. And we incorporated in New York as well. I know a lot of people do sort of Delaware and different places. But we took advice from our lawyers, and they said, you pay tax where you do your business in America anyway. So we just said, look, let's keep it really simple and really invest in the state that we're set up in.
And I think New York, a lot of people now think, do we need to be there? Which, as you say, not always. But if you're going to have service clients in New York, actually being there can sometimes pay off in dividends to actually getting those bigger fees. Like, you do need to be.
I think so. Long term, you need to have a presence where your clients are.
Yeah.
It might be.
Love it. Yeah. And in terms of you kind of, I guess, incubated a team in the UK, did you identify consultants? I know Sarah put her hand up to go out there.
Yes.
How did you manage that?
So we wanted, definitely to have, one of us in the US. I think it was really important when you're setting up a business to have that, that culture carrier, set it up as in our sort of framework. Sarah went out there. We have incubated people from London to go over there. But our first hire in America was an American.
Amazing.
We hired a junior girl who was amazing for us, and she worked hand in hand with Sarah for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
And then we started to relocate people the next year out from London. Built the team that way. So the sort of senior level were experienced people from the UK.
Yeah.
And then we hired graduates under them.
Yeah, love that. And how have you found kind of culturally getting that balance, having a team in the US, team in the UK culture versus US cultures?
Yeah.
What's the balance like, I guess, then, from UK consultants versus US? Have you got?
We've got majority UK consultants.
Yeah.
At one point we had sort of 50-50. We did hire a few grads, but they didn't work out. And I think, maybe it was a culture thing. I think it was probably the grads we hired, it was more of a work ethic thing we found that just didn't match up the same as the UK employees. But the people we hired that have worked out have been really kind of international focused. I think that's probably really key, how to sort of blend the two. The people we've hired have been, very much, always on a plane. They've been externally, they've been to Europe, they've been traveling, and they've got that kind of bigger mindset, I would say. So that's been a really good thing for us. And we are a really close team, so we do a lot of things together. We've been on trips together.
Yes.
And the first thing that we did was Mariah, who we hired in the US, she hadn't met any of us because it was COVID, and actually Sarah was stuck in the UK for a while.
Yeah.
And we took everyone to Dubai for our Christmas party, and Mariah actually flew from, she was actually in LA at home at the time, she flew from LA to Dubai to come meet us, and that was the first time anyone had met us, even though she'd worked for us for 5 months already. So that kind of just get up and go attitude and let the throw yourself in attitude really worked for us. With but it's hard to find, it is hard to find people that kind of fit into your culture. But we've done well.
And you mentioned kind of your clients' sweet spot, UK headquartered, going to the US. What sort of initial hires are they looking to make kind of in the US? Where are you advising?
So it's a real mixture. I think what we've done well is for UK businesses hiring their number one person on the ground. So like MD level hires. Yeah. They've come to us and said, can you find us, number one hire? And we've done that across the US in different locations, different sectors. And then after that, it's really finding those 360 recruiters. That is the main challenge that every recruitment business in America has, is finding good 360 recruiters, and that could be of any level. And then we've done also grad hiring, which has been really good for us for the last 3 years. And that's doing grad campaigns. So for those in Miami and New York. And also in Chicago as well. So multi-hire grad campaign, this has been where we've added some value for our clients.
Yeah. And a lot of conversations we have will be around kind of a UK recruiter versus a US recruiter.
Yeah.
What would you say, just for the people watching, kind of the main things to look out for, the main differences you'll find, and kind of how you might need to change what is your standard in the UK?
I think it's really good to have a balance of both. Having a team that have, the UK mentality. If you've done well in the UK, you'll do well in America. If you've recruited in London, it's hard work. It's quite fast paced. It's volume. You've got to be on the ball, and I think that translates very well into the US market. Yeah. I think hiring Americans, the biggest challenge is finding people that aren't 180. And I think finding people from another challenge that people have had is taking people out of a big, a Robert Half or a Michael Page and putting them into more of a boutique environment. The clients we work with, like the biggest client that we work with, has got 200 people. So I think moving from a big established corporate environment to a boutique has been, it's always sometimes a struggle, but I think finding the right person with the right mentality and having the right training and development and infrastructure for them is really important. But yeah, I mean, we've relocated a lot of people from Australia and the UK to America on visas, and I've never had anyone come back so far. So that everyone that's moved has been a real success. And yeah, so I think it's a great person. It's a great place to have the UK recruiters over there. But I think people do really want to find that unicorn of somebody that does 360 recruitment that has been in America and
BD, like the expert.
Absolutely, to have BD. Yeah, exactly. And I think, and again, that's another challenge from the last 3 years is finding, that sweet spot of a 3-year experienced recruiter who has got really good BD skills, because they've not had to do it in the last 3 years. So that is, again, it's a big challenge for everybody.
That's what we've seen as well. A lot of clients kind of steer towards, let's do grad hires, and then we'll trade it and we'll put our kind of DNA and our culture, our processes.
Yeah, I do feel, and I was thinking about this on the way here, that the most successful businesses we work with who've scaled, that aren't just 10, 20 people, and that's fine if you want to stay 10, 20 people, but the ones that have got to like 50, 60, 100, 200 people, they have done it through grad hiring. I mean, it has, and from hiring American grads as well. I think, as long as you've got a good training platform, a good sort of onboarding platform, then I think, that's probably the way you would scale with Americans.
Yeah. It's also like, truly being a recruiter in the US, you can earn, your earning potential is huge. So if you've got a really entrepreneurial person, just like in the UK, I think recruitment is a very entrepreneurial role. Whereas in the US, I don't think it's always like come out of college and think, oh, I'm going to go work in staffing or recruitment. So if you pick, a candidate, a grad with an amazing kind of work ethic mentality.
Yeah.
Very success.
People ask me, how do you hire grads in America? And it's like, well, it is down to the person. Yeah. We've hired 3. We've got 1 still working for us, and what she does really well is that having that curiosity, having that international outlook, having that thirst for knowledge and also ambition, and obviously it costs a lot of money to go to college in America sometimes, so that's the motivation for somebody if they come out of college and they've got to repay their bills, and that does help. So I think just having that raw thirst for knowledge and being inquisitive, and that's why she's done really well, because she's just asked questions all the time. She's a very good communicator, and driven to make money.
Love it. And whilst we're just on the topic of grads, salaries, compensation, US, I think a lot of UK recruiters love servicing the US, and then when they go and dip their toe in and think, oh, let's actually hire some people, they're a bit shocked by.
Yeah, I mean, we will place grads, say outside of New York on sort of $45,000 base salaries. Within New York, they're probably more like 55.
Fresh
grads, no recruitment experience. Yeah, depending on the business, I think some businesses that are bigger do pay a bit less, but our clients will pay around the 55K. Some of our research clients are paying $60,000 for graduates. So and then you've got to think about healthcare on top of that. Yeah. So the cost to hire is obviously something that's really need to budget for properly.
Yeah, well, that's about $500 to $1,000 a month.
The standard would be $500 to $700. A good scheme would be $1,000. A month per employee. So a big cost on top of that, and obviously then you've got 401k and all the other things. You can talk about benefits, but that kind of starting salaries are at about that level, and then anything up to we've placed MDs on 250k salaries, and probably that kind of middle manager level, what we would say director or I think they call it senior VP. That sort of level can end up being between 120 150k. And then, senior consultants and consultancy, anything in between that 60 and 100k basically. Yeah. So, I mean, that's New York salaries. Everyone sort of says, does it differ between state? Do you know what? I actually was in Austin last week, and I think the salaries are really comparable to New York. I mean, it's still quite an expensive place to live. So I would say we don't see that much variation between states. Yeah, and to be honest with you now, because everyone's being remote.
It's moving around our talent.
You're paying for talent. Yeah, so I wouldn't try and choose your location based on saving money on
I think
the salaries.
That's more kind of, if you're looking at your incorporation tax, your income tax, be swayed by that with states. But you're right, when it comes to the talent. Yeah. And just while we're on kind of remuneration packages, commission structures, a lot of our clients will say, okay, if the average fee is going to be 40k, do I need to go back on comms? So does it restructure that?
Yeah, look, I think the $64 million question is what's the best commission structure. You know, it's very, very difficult to generalize. I would just say if you're hiring American talent, they don't like the draw system. A lot of our clients do have draws in terms of you take home 35 or 40% of everything you bill, including your base salary. Your base salary is quite high. And Americans tend to have in American staffing firms, tend to have much lower base salaries, but take a higher draw. So whereas ours would be 35 to 40%, they're taking home 55 or even 60%.
Yeah.
But because they're foregoing the base salary. So it's quite hard to get them away from that 60%, you know, I earn 60% of what I bill. It's like, well, you're never going, unless you're billing 2 million quid, you're never going to be getting dollars, you're never going to be earning 60%. So making that shift is quite hard to sell.
Yeah.
But I think the most attractive commission structures, I would say, you know, ideally are threshold free. I mean, there's very few businesses that we work with that don't have a threshold and then have sort of a standard.
I love that as a benefit.
Yeah.
Uncapped
commission. Yeah. But I think, you know, having a kind of a fairly, you know, standard threshold and then a sort of either a flat 20% up to a certain level.
Yeah.
But I think what's really important is then putting in kickers for overperformance.
Yeah.
So if you hit, you know, $700,000 of, you know, NFI, then you get a kicker that goes up to 30 or 40%. Yeah, to incentivize on the top end. But most of our clients would have a kind of threshold, which could be anything between, well, some of them half your base salary, some of them are 2 times your base salary. It just depends, and then a sliding scale depending on what the threshold is.
And do you get much insight into what different targets are, whether like monthly targets, quarterly targets, like what kind of standard for maybe a grad coming in when they're expected to start billing, what they want?
Yeah, I think, yes, we do. I think the normal sort of ramp up time for a grad would be 3 to 4 months, I would say. You know, they should be billing, you know, maybe 10K a month and, you know, after that 3 months. I think for an experienced hire, actually we did a webinar recently with one of our clients, and it was like, if somebody was relocating from the UK with, you know, 1 to 2 years experience, what would be the expectations on billings for them? And you know, expectations and you know, based on fact is that somebody with that level of experience would probably do 400 maybe in their first year. Based on my client's average fee was around 35, 40K. So that's only sort of 10 placements in the first year, which should be really, really achievable. So yeah, I think for expectations for a junior would be, you know, 250 maybe in their first year. An experienced person, 400, 450 in their second year, probably 500, 600. And then, kind of goes up.
Yeah, got that. Yeah. And on that point, bringing UK talent over to the US, what have you seen around kind of, you know, relocation packages, rent being paid for X amount of months?
Yeah, I think relocation packages aren't, you know, that exciting, I would say. You know, I think generally you will get 2 weeks accommodation when you arrive. You'll get your flights paid for and some shipping, depending on what you've got. But really, after that, you're kind of on your own. It's you know, there's not, unless I think if you've got a family, if it's a senior ND level hire, they might put you up for, you know, with your family for 3 or 4 months. But I think, generally you could expect just 2 weeks accommodation. It is a difficult one because when you arrive, you know, it's a bit chicken and egg. You've got to get your social security and also get bank accounts. So I would actually, in my experience, it probably takes more like 3 to 4 weeks to actually find a place to live. So I would probably ask, if you were looking at relocating, ask for a bit of flexibility around that. But generally it's like put in an Airbnb or a serviced apartment for 2 or 3 weeks and then away you go.
And have you seen, with a lot of our clients will pick, you know, someone in the UK office that's going to go out and head up the US kind of expansion and growth. with their packages, we've seen, you know, because you are ultimately building a business for them, you know, giving them equity, giving them shares. Have you seen a lot of those conversations kind of about what you see as kind of an average package? Or
for somebody setting up a business who's existing?
Yeah, so if I'm an existing consultant and say I'm going to go out to these.
Yeah, I think they would probably build in some sort of subsidised accommodation for the year. Equity is definitely on you know, the key. I think some sort of profit share or equity scheme to help build the office. But yeah, I think other than that, it's pretty similar to other relocations, to be honest with you. We haven't really done a huge amount of existing people going to set up an office in the US. It's been more external hires that have gone over there, to be honest with you. Or people that are already living in Boston, for example. They're the number one hire for that business, but they're already set up in Boston. So yeah,
love that. And so actually recruiting in the US, you guys have done a phenomenal job, but you did a lot of retained.
Yes, about 7% of what we did last year was retained.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And how have you found kind of winning business in the US versus what winning business in the UK market might have been like?
Do you know what? We've been lucky. So for the first 3 years, we didn't really have to do any business development. I mean, in our world, your clients become your candidates become your clients, and so we've kind of built it through that and through word of mouth. We were lucky that we had, you know, a few anchor clients that, you know, said, yeah, we'll sponsor you and give you some work when we first set up, and then it's really been all inbound inquiries since then. In fact, less retained work in 2023, but and so we have actually placed with a lot more different clients because we've had to. Which is actually really, really good. But no, I think the American, in America, it's all based on delivery. Like if you've got, you know, they just want a candidate. So I don't think it's very difficult to win business. Well, okay, I'm sort of paraphrasing a little bit, but I think, you know, if you've got a good candidate to take to market, again, then you'll be able to place them basically in America. It's very much like, you know, deliver and then we'll build the relationship. We do have a couple of US clients, which we have brought on, but again, they don't really want to meet you face to face. It's like, well, yeah, I could meet you for a coffee, but what have you got for me? Type of thing. So, yeah, it's quite a different mentality. Whereas I find in the UK, when you're doing business development or going in front of clients, it's like, these are our credentials, this is what we can do for you. And the Americans are a bit less interested in that. They're more just find me the candidates and then we can talk afterwards.
And even the actual recruitment process, things like at will, notice periods, you've got people that will honour 2 weeks requested. So the actual speed to hire, absolutely briefed, placed, invoiced.
Yeah, and that's the reason most people, you know, initially go to America. It's like you've got, you know, shorter notice periods, bigger fees. You know, we've had, you know, a lot of sort of dropouts in the UK business, and we really never had one in America because of that speed. And you place
time
on the Friday. Yeah, they don't have time to think. So you could place someone in America on a Friday and they could start on the Monday, literally. So the cash flow is quicker. You know, the fees are higher. The process is, I think, depending on the level, is pretty similar in terms of timeframes. But yeah, I think the main reason we do it is
amazing.
Yeah.
And on those fees, I know, like in the UK market, like you get, I only work with people on 15%, 12%, 18%, it's the average. What do you see in the US? What are you guys seeing as kind of clients giving in?
Yeah, minimum 25% in the US, I would say. You know, even in rec to rec, which is notoriously, you know, for a reputation of being quite low margin, we would only work between 25 and 30% depending on the product that we're giving the client. So I think most of our clients are working in that bracket. I think they might do something, you know, 22.5, you know, depending on volume. But no, it's I don't know anyone working less than 22.5% in the US market, to be honest with you. And I think for the search firms, they're obviously working at higher, like 33-34% as well, which is great.
Then you've got your higher salaries. It's just no brainer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where have you seen, or if you have seen, a shift in your clients looking to place and get recruiters on the ground? Have you seen big hubs or, I guess, migrations of?
Yeah, the biggest one this year has been to Florida.
Yeah.
The big, everyone
Miami,
left. Yeah, Miami, Tampa, Orlando.
Yeah.
There's a place up the coast as well, which is what the name of. But yeah, a few different places that popped up that we were like, oh, okay, you recruit that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably the biggest one. I think places like Charlotte, Raleigh. We've had, I think this year we've had about 4 clients set up in Raleigh, which is really interesting. And then Austin has obviously been, I think Austin gets a lot of relocations from the West Coast. People sort of wanting a slightly slightly cheaper place, cost of living, but yeah, still nice and warm.
Bloomberg have coined it like the Great Southern Migration, where you've got end clients or talent living in your more expensive states or going to your Floridas with paying for income tax, etc.
I think I was talking to some people in Austin, and they were like, we take home 70% of everything we earn here, so rather than so that they're only paying 30% tax at the top end, so it's definitely making a big difference versus something like New York.
So I know we've spoken about recruiters' kind of packages, compensation, commission. With the pandemic, a lot of people started working remotely. What have you seen, if any, a shift with recruitment consultants being in office, being remote, hybrid?
It's gone full circle, to be honest with you. Obviously, during lockdown, everyone was remote, and then businesses were like, we can operate a hybrid model. Everyone can be based wherever they like, and that kind of continued in 2022. And into 2023. But as the market got tougher, everyone literally did a U-turn, and everyone was like, right, back to the office. And it's different scales in the US. I think the people that are remote and doing well, they've been able to stay remote. The people that haven't are being told they have to come back into the office. So that's led to a lot of unsettling and people moving. But yeah, I would say the majority of our clients, I think this is where the US businesses may be different from the UK headquartered businesses, are now back in the office a minimum of 3 days a week. And then pushing to be 4 days. And I think most people would love it to be 5 days again, to be honest with you. There are a few businesses that are just like, we're 5 days in the office now. So, and that's really, that's polarizing. You're either in or you're out. So there's been a lot of movement because of all that. But I think the US companies probably, we just lost a candidate who was amazing. He's based in Philadelphia. And he was going to do 2 days in New York, but really he wanted to be fully remote. So he went to, I think he joined Air Swift. But yeah, we don't work with them. So I think that's, that is, it is a bit of a challenge. People do still want to be remote. And the recruitment market has shifted.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of any clients that have got team in the UK that service the US, we've seen a bit of a, get BD people, good people on the ground, pay them the salaries that they need to be paid in the US. Maybe have a delivery team in the UK. Do you see those setups?
I think we do. Less so than having everything based in the US, to be honest with you. There are a few of our clients, again, we don't work with that many clients. We only placed with 23 clients last year. So, but I think it's fine for a certain period of time. I just don't think it's sustainable. We're having hubs of people delivering. I've seen bigger firms try to do it in Cardiff or London or Birmingham or different lower cost places, and it hasn't worked. So, the time difference can be a killer. So, I think it would last for about a year, as then, you'd probably run out of steam a little bit. That's my experience. So, I think having people, junior people on the ground delivering. Where we have seen good delivery hubs is places like Mexico. But now we've got 2 or 3 clients with Mexico delivery hubs. They seem to work really well.
Love it. You obviously are speaking to a lot of UK headquartered businesses, going to go set up and expand into the US. What would you say to them if they say, Lisa, what's going to make us an attractive employer? Bearing in mind we're going to be quite small in the US to get started, to make sure that we can attract and retain the top talent that we
I think it's a mixture of 3 things. Obviously compensation, which we talked about, having a really strong commission scheme that's going to be attractive to people at all levels. Benefits is another key one. Obviously when you first go there, it's quite hard to set everything up in terms of healthcare, etc., which is why I use PTC, we'll come on to. But I think having a good healthcare scheme is absolutely paramount. And we see clients, smaller clients probably will subsidise like 50% of the healthcare for their employees, and that will cost you, still cost you like $500 a month. And then sort of some do 75. We have got clients who do 100% of coverage, but that will cost you like $1,000 a month. And you have different packages. So it's just getting advice and getting that all right is really, really important, because it is very, very, very important to recruiters. And then 401k, which is like their alternative pension. Again, having that set up, having gym subsidies, anything to do with like mental health and physical wellness, having that as your proposition is really, really important. And I think developing your EVP, like what are people buying into? What's your mission? That America, especially in the American market, they're very into, I want to be doing something with a purpose. So if you have something purpose driven, really lead with that. And
what about PTO? That's a big one. We hit clients on just knowing.
Yeah, I think just really communicating. I actually spoke to a candidate in the UK. I was trying to get to relocate last night, and he was like, "I'm never going to America. I don't want 10 days PTO." And I was like, "No, that's not the case." So, just really being, standard PTO is 20 to 25 days, as it would be in the UK. And I think just mirroring your UK scheme over there is a huge attraction to Americans, because they say they will only have 10 days otherwise.
Yeah, they won't take it.
And they won't take it. Exactly. I think that's probably the main things. And just really like knowing your niche as well. I think that the kind of companies that have been the most successful have, set out their stall in one area, got really narrow and deep in that area, and then you've done other things.
You can sometimes get a bit lost. Like people say, I'm going to do the East Coast and I'm going to do tech. It's like, no.
One location, one niche, and build.
Really hone in, be laser focused.
Absolutely.
So you've obviously just touched on it then, but if you were to say to a recruitment company thinking about the US, like top things that they can do that would make them the biggest success in the US, kind of key takeaways.
Niche, have a strong employer value proposition, have something with purpose, pay people really well, and make it really simple as well. I think actually people overcomplicate salaries and commission schemes. The easier it is to understand, the more attractive you will be. I've got some clients I still don't understand the commission structure, and it's they've got models and you plug in numbers, and just really keep it simple. And then and people are looking for a value creation opportunity. I talk about this a lot. If you're hiring experienced people, what is the 3-year plan, and what could people expect, and what will be their part in it, and how can they create the value? So some sort of LTIP or profit share is really attractive, and that's what will attract people from the bigger brands, obviously, because they're not going to get that in their current roles.
Yeah. And what about the education of the market to consultants coming in? Obviously, if you're bringing UK consultants into the US is going to be new for them as a market, but also bringing grads in to the US market.
I think having a very strong L&D platform is really, really key. And it's actually one thing I feel a bit sorry about in 2023, that people have cut back on their L&D, and I feel like that is a mistake, because it's a huge attraction for people coming into the business, especially at grad level. Like one of the things I would do differently, we hired grads. We didn't really have a very good set up in terms of grad L&D. So I think the businesses that have been really successful in America have got that absolutely nailed, and they've got a training scheme for all of their grads coming in, and they've been really successful. The ones that got over like 50 people, they've done it through really strong
having scaffolding and things.
Exactly.
So
I would say that's probably the biggest thing.
Love it. And PGC, so how did you first hear about PGC?
Yeah, so I've got to give a shout out to one of my clients, Rob Grant at Harrington Star. So when we were thinking about setting up 15 West, we sort of asked our network, experts that have done it before, how did you do it? What were your pitfalls, etc. And and Rob was in America. He'd been, I think, there about 3 years with Harrington Starr. So literally just picked his brain, said, what do we need to be aware of? He actually helped me with my business plan for the submission for the visa as well, which is really like a massive thing when you're setting up. That's very time consuming. My advice there is just pay the lawyers to do it, and we try to do it ourselves. But you have to write a business plan that says certain things to obviously get the visa. So in the end, we just outsourced it. But Rob was really happy to help there. And one of the things he said is, use PGC. So because we didn't have scale in the US at that time, because it was 2020 and COVID, we couldn't get our own healthcare and set up like that. So he just said, use PGC. They'll be able to do it. It'll be very streamlined. So we phoned PGC, and we used you to set up Mariah as our first hire in the US, and it was super quick, super easy. Yeah, just not looked back since.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And we've worked with you again for your Canada hire. So you obviously are fully set up in the US, like a lot of our clients do with that solution. You can take it in-house. I know you've got your own entity, your own setup.
Yeah, so we found someone we wanted to hire, but they were relocating to Toronto. And obviously we had no entity in Toronto, no payroll, no anything. So we basically phoned you and said, could you have payroll running in Canada? And again, that went really smoothly. Onboarded her, obviously gave her the healthcare, the benefits and everything that comes with, hiring somebody in Canada. And I think that's the main thing when you're a small business, you don't have all access to all of that thing. It's just a one-stop shop, and it was really, really effective for us.
Yeah. We
find a lot of value with all the information that you have with regard to the growth areas in America, how to onboard people, what's best practice. I feel like you add a lot of value in terms of your knowledge of different pay structures, different tax, schemes, all of that kind of stuff in America. The knowledge and depth and reach that you guys have been really, really helpful to us and our clients. And we recommend you all the time to our clients if you're going to set up.
Love that. And what is next for 15 West?
Oh my goodness. What is next? We'd like to open another location in the US. Yeah, that's our next thing. So actually I've thinking about it. Yeah, Austin, Denver, just to cover that West Coast market.
Yeah.
So Sarah and I will be going to Denver in the next few months to check that out. I think the team would like to move to Miami, so we may do that again. We don't really need to be in New York anymore.
Yeah.
And I think work-life balance in Miami would be great.
Yeah.
And I think from a cost of living point of view, you pay less tax for your employees. So yeah, we might sort of move a couple of them to Miami. But I think there's a lot more competition in America now for us, and I have seen. People move to Florida. There's lots of work in Texas as well. So yeah, there's a lot out there. So we'll see. Just looking forward to cracking on and hopefully getting 2024, being the best year we've ever had.
Amazing. And just in terms of the market, so UK market, US market, when you do have those kind of downturns and peaks, honest answer, do you see the same kind of levels of extreme kind of quietness and booms in the US like we do in the UK?
Yeah, do you know what? They go at different times, which is actually quite useful to have both locations. So I was talking about this yesterday. The UK has actually been a really much better market for us this year than it was maybe last year versus the US, because I think the US obviously overhired so much more than the UK did in 2021, 2022. And so the adjustment has been harder. And so there's been less hiring going on in the US comparative to London, whereas the cuts weren't as deep in the US, in the UK. So yes, absolutely. I think the two balance out each other. I'd say different markets as well have changed in different times. So life sciences in the US this year has been really strong for us, whereas tech has not been very strong. And so it's kind of all swings and roundabouts really. I think financial services in London's been quite good this year and kept going. And there's just been different, like that risk compliance piece has been strong. Legal's always strong everywhere, but I think it does definitely they don't go at the same time.
Ebb and flow.
Yeah, it does ebb and flow, definitely.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your wisdom. Really appreciate it. And yeah, excited to see what's ahead. And we'll grab a cocktail in Austin or Miami or Denver.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Thank you. Want help backing out your US expansion? Visit us at www.pgcgroup.com to learn more or schedule a free US expansion opportunity session with one of our consultants.